Happy Tuesday, ladies and gentlemen. This is episode number 253 of Shut Up and Grind with your host, yours truly, Robert B. Foster. So before we dive in, I had no shows last week because COVID came back for me again. And this time it actually triggered my asthma. So if you see me clearing my throat a bit, it's because I'm still on the tail lingering effects of that. Other than that, I will do my best to be my usual peppy self. So today we're going to be talking about how to face the pain that you are hiding from. So doing this many episodes, and we're talking all about storytelling, and every episode hits hard. And why? Because we're all unique. We all go through things in a unique way and bring a unique perspectives to how we overcome the things that we've overcome. And the big takeaway I want you to get from this is that your story is strong, your story is powerful, and there's somebody out there right now that's hanging on by a thread that needs to hear your story like only you can tell it. So if you're joining me over on YouTube, please subscribe to the channel, share the video. If you're joining me on either of my Facebook pages, please like and share. And if you're brand new, I challenge you to stay to the end. If you have questions, use the comment section to ask questions, and we will get to those questions. If you're joining me on the audio only, please subscribe, download, like, share, all that good stuff. And I appreciate your support. So for those of us up here in cold weather land, wait, did I delete it? Oh, no, I didn't. Up here in cold weather land, we have hoodies available. If you want to support the show, shutupandgrindgear.com. Okay, that's shutupandgrindgear.com. I have all kinds of apparel on there, not just hoodies. Appreciate the support. Now let's get into this, all right? So how to face the pain that you are hiding from. Helping me have that conversation, I'm bringing in Angela Legh. Welcome.
Thank you.
And where were you joining me from again?
Taos, New Mexico.
New Mexico. Are you originally from there?
No, I'm originally from Northern California.
Okay.
And I did live in England for a year where I got that line back there.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So
And
go ahead.
yeah, it's kind of like I grew up, I was born in the Haight-Ashbury district of San Francisco in 1964. So I was there for the Summer of Love, but I was 3 years old.
But hey, damn it, you were there. It's all that
Oh,
matters.
it's there.
All right, so let's dive in. Let's get to know you a little bit better. So how would you describe yourself, or even better yet, how would your best friend describe you?
I think I would be described as compassionate, loving, calm, and generous. Yeah.
Generous. Right. And all of those traits definitely speak to what it is that you do for a living now. But we'll get there. We'll get there in a bit. So, as you know, the show's all about overcoming obstacles. In so your childhood was a little tough, as I was reading through your bio and stuff. So, take me through what that was like.
You know, the funny part is that when I, like 5 years ago, 10 years ago, I would have told you that, my childhood was fine because I had repressed so much of what happened. And the net result was that I ended up judging people who were angry because my father was basically a raging alcoholic.
Okay.
He had nice times, but his rage and the alcoholism were really the overarching energy that we experienced.
Okay. So what brought that on? Like, did he himself go through something that he was turning to alcohol to suppress the feelings?
I had never considered that until my aunt, his sister, said to me, and it was just an offhand comment, but this totally blew my world up because what she said was, Jimmy was such a sensitive child.
Okay.
And in my mind, my dad was a monster.
Yes.
The monster that lived in my house. And to consider how his father, because my father was born in 1925, so in those times, being a sensitive boy was very frowned upon. And so his father really tried to repress and basically beat out of him this very sensitive, very heart-based um, part of him. And so he learned to reject that part of himself. And but he also walked away, and I've never talked to him about this. He died a long time ago. Um, but I just kind of have this sense that he walked away with no self-worth, with the feelings of failure, that I'm never going to be good enough for my father.
Mm.
And I believe that he started drinking to drown those feelings because they were those feelings that he could not face. But his behavior when drunk perpetuated those feelings because he didn't meet the mark of being a father or a husband, and so he was basically a failure in those two areas, and that was like a self-feeding dynamic that just, he'd drink more to forget those parts, and then he'd behave in ways that caused us to hate him.
And I know that's not funny. It was just the way you said it.
Yeah.
So you think so? He was turning to alcohol to numb the pain, but
Yep.
with alcohol being a stimulant, it it stirred up the other parts that he was feeling in there as well. Basically, is what you're saying?
Yeah, what happened is that his behavior, his rage while he was drunk caused others to see him as a failure.
Gotcha.
And so it was just, stretching out that whole string and making the behavior more.
Okay, and how did that personally affect you?
Well, um, you know, I've talked to I've had energy healing and I've had all kinds of alternative healing. And I have no memory of this, but I've had people, energy healers, tell me that I was raped as a child. And like I told you earlier, I had repressed so many of the memories. Um, I can't tell you, I don't have a memory of it, so I can't tell you if that's true, but there was that energy. And I know that my almost my whole life I was in victim energy because I started off as the victim of my father and
Yes.
then got married to a man who had a terrible childhood and became his victim of emotional abuse. So,
Let me just ask you on that. Do you feel that happened because that was your normal?
yes,
Okay.
I believe it's not only that was the normal, but that my self-worth was so low that I didn't believe I deserved any better than that.
Mm. And how did you navigate those feelings?
Well, I would say for the first 30 years of that marriage,
Hmm.
I was totally in denial of those feelings
Okay.
and, pretty much asleep to what excuse me, what was going on. I was, I wanted to be happy, and I took all kinds of online courses like UC Berkeley, the Science of Happiness course, so that I could figure out ways to be happy. But when you're the recipient of rage and blame, it's hard to be happy.
Yes.
Excuse me.
No problem.
And I didn't have COVID.
Yeah, it hit me like a ton of bricks out of nowhere last week. I don't even know where it could have come from. But anyways, let's stay on path here. All right, so you're in this marriage. You said 30 years.
Hmm.
Okay, so when did you like? I hate using the word awaken, but when did you awaken that this was something you had to seize control of?
um, so in October of 2017, there was a wildfire in Northern California. And that wildfire destroyed the wine country of California. Basically, it destroyed 5,000 homes, and one of those homes was ours.
Oh wow,
So,
I actually
yeah.
remember that.
Oh, yeah. It was
Yeah, I
it
was
was a
in Las
defining
Vegas.
moment.
Yeah, I was in Las Vegas that year, and you could see the haze from the fires in California. Yeah,
Yeah.
I remember that vividly.
It was, yeah, pretty. The sky was brown for 2 weeks after the fire.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so your house burned down, and take me from there.
Yeah, so, that kind of pulls the rug out from under you, and you're like, "What step do I take next? I don't even know." And, um, basically, I went into a dark night of the soul, and I started asking myself some really intense, deep questions, like, "Is this the life you wanna live for the rest of your life? Because you've already, stayed this long. If you're gonna stay committed and stay in this marriage, this is what you're going to experience for the rest of your life. There's not
Yes.
going to be any changes."
Yep.
And I think what had kept me in the marriage for so long was the perpetual hope that there could be growth and changes.
Okay. So you said you had to ask yourself some really deep questions, and I think that's a powerful, powerful sentence because it's very easy to do this. And when people have things that have hurt them or just situations that may not be necessarily serving them, it's very easy to point the finger. And I'm guilty of this myself. I've been through situations in the past where it's like, why are they doing this to me? Why is this happening to me? And then
Yep.
finally someone put it to me bluntly, like, this is happening because of you. And at first I was offended. I was very offended. Like, what are you talking about? I get up every
I
day.
didn't do
I'm
this.
with
I
the
didn't
kids.
ask for this.
Yeah, like I'm here with the kids, and I'm at all the after school things, and I'm this and I'm that, and then it's like, but what can I do better? And then you actually just start writing stuff out, and it's like, oh my god, like I have quite a lot I could work on.
Yeah.
There it is.
And really, there's a lot of power in, instead of pointing the finger at someone else, because when you point the finger at someone else, you're giving away your power. You're putting
Yes,
them in power.
very true.
When you instead say, "Okay, this happened, they did that, but I was responsive to it. I had a reaction."
Yep.
By taking responsibility for your own reaction, you step out of victimhood.
Yes.
When you're pointing the finger, you're keeping yourself in victimhood. And so,
Right. I'd like
it's,
to get I'd like to get your definition of victimhood because some people get so triggered by that word.
yeah, victimhood, there's a lot of depth to that word. And um, on the surface, when I say victim, what I believe is that there's an energetic triangle of victim, persecutor, and rescuer. And a lot of people don't conceive of rescuer as part of victim energy, but it is.
Yep.
Because when you see someone as needing your help, you're taking their power away and you're saying they're the victim and they need me to go in and help them. Now, a lot of people get really triggered when I talk about this because they'll say, well, if a father is abusing a child in a grocery store or in the parking lot of a grocery store, I can't not go in there and stop that. And from my experience, from my life experience, whenever I intervened as a mother, when I believed my husband was getting um, too overbearing with my kids, he would double down. He would he would then be overbearing to me and my kids all
Gotcha.
at the same time, and it would like double the energy of the situation. And that taught me that, sometimes when we intervene, that might stop the situation in that moment. But what happens when they get home? Or what happens when they're alone? And so, um, what I teach in my children's books is to send love energy to both sides, to the person who's being injured and the person who's doing it,
Yes.
because both sides need that love. They need to feel that they are love in order to stop the situation.
Yeah, it's true. It's like I've done a couple episodes on that, and what people oh, I lost the live feed. See, so what people get so mad at when you use that word victim, they take it as like a personal attack. It's like if you get assaulted, yes, in that moment you are a victim. Now there's no
Yeah,
right or wrong amount of time to heal. Like that I understand. But if you're years down the line and you're still living in that pain, that's
yeah,
what I consider playing the victim. It's like, okay, this happened, you experienced it, but now how are you going to move forward from it? Like if you don't have a clear plan to move forward, then you're stuck playing the victim.
yep.
Yes,
And it's very disempowering to be the victim.
agreed.
Yeah, yeah. So, for me, it's really about owning your reactions. So, when you're emotionally triggered by something someone does or said, then often that is corresponding to something that happened to you a long time ago, maybe when you were a child. And there's unresolved emotions about the first incident when you were a child,
Mhm.
because none of us were taught how to deal with our emotions in childhood.
It's true.
So, yeah, we did the best we could and we followed the example of those around us.
Yes. Let me interject real quick. And things today are so different. Like I had a talk with my oldest daughter. This was a few months ago, and she just unloaded some stuff from like a decade ago, and it was good for her to get that stuff off of her chest. But like I mean I'm 48, and like we weren't raised to feel. Like we were raised to
I
do.
know.
It's like my dad was a Marine, and he was awesome. He was awesome with us, but like that was just his stance, especially for us boys. It's like we just didn't show emotion. If there was a problem, he would taught us to just tackle the problem, and like basically if you're in fire, put out the fire as quickly as possible. And that's what we were raised. So we fast forward now, a couple of decades later, everything is about feelings and validation and everything. And again, and I'm not knocking that. Like I'm just not equipped for that. So
Well,
like when my
yeah.
kid
And
when the kids come to me with a problem, like I just want to solve their problem and get them happy again. But it's like learning to step back and just listen, take it in, understand why they're feeling what they're feeling. But it's definitely a learning curve.
I appreciate that you're taking that, because yeah, it's foreign to you, but you're recognizing that this is something that she needs
Yes.
you to do, and that's like the mark of a great parent because recognizing the child's needs and desires and wants is very important. So, as far as this society has really kind of said, men, you're not supposed, don't cry, don't feel, don't cry, don't feel. And
Mm,
that has been drummed in from childhood. And the men that were the role models didn't show their feelings, and they, you know it was like you said, Marines, or but even non-Marine, it was like not okay to feel.
Yeah.
And I mentioned when we first met that I had lived in England for a year, and I was doing a guided meditation to help connect people to their inner child. And I asked them to remember a time when they were young, doing something that they really enjoyed. Maybe it was basketball, maybe it was riding the bike. Just remember this time and feel the feeling of that freedom, or of, the joy that you felt.
Yes.
And one of the one of the adults said, "I don't know how to feel." It's like, oh yeah, it's keep calm and carry on here, isn't it? And
You know what does it for me? I mean, my kids are getting older now, so we don't do the playground as much, but like on the rare occasions that we go, sitting on the swings, to
I
just
love
sit there,
swinging.
I instantly go back like 30 plus years. Like there's just something so calming about it.
Yeah.
I don't know if it goes back to infancy with your mom rocking you. I don't know what
Oh,
it
it
is,
does.
but that motion is just so relaxing.
And I'm so glad you brought that up. I have a swing in my own backyard so that I
Oh,
can,
nice.
and I go outside and I swing every day. So,
Nice. See, the other thing I do too is I love nature. It's like I grew up in a very rural area, so there was a lot of woods. There was always
mm,
trails and stuff back there. And even now, if I hit a moment of stress, because I'm human like everyone else, but I
yeah.
live right by one of the state parks here in Rhode Island, and I just put on my headphones, put on either some podcasts, some videos. Sometimes I listen to my own shows again, and I just go for a walk, and you just take a
Mm,
second and just appreciate the little things. It's like, oh, look at the colors on that bird. It's like, look at how nice looking that tree looks. Or look at the reflection in the water. And just those little things like bring me right back in the center balance. And then I'm able to come back and tackle, whatever is at the source of the stress. But I think, that's why I named this how to face the pain that you're hiding from. It's easier to hide from the pain than face the pain. So you decided to take everything that you've gone through and put it into children's books. So how did you decide to
yeah.
take that course of action?
I just I had this story that just was like pouring out of me, and um it just started writing, and I realized maybe 6 months into writing that the lessons that I learned in my life were being incorporated into the story. And um one of the things that you said was that it's easier to escape the pain than face it. And I will challenge that until the day I die because it's actually the repression or rejection of a feeling is what builds up into a mountain of pain that people develop. Because every time they reject or repress, that energy of the feeling stays with them. And so it becomes this just heavy load that they're carrying around.
Yes.
And they think that they've escaped it, but as soon as something happens and they're emotionally triggered, that whole mountain comes popping out, and it doesn't necessarily match the event.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's why I always say your true power lies in your story. I'm saying in the minds of the people going through the pain, it's easier to drink a bottle of wine in their mind than to relive whatever it is that hurt them again. But I agree with you 100%. And when I help people navigate their stories, I always say it's like the more you tell it, the easier it gets. The more you
Yes.
heal from it, the more you start to accept what happened, and then you start to figure out the teachable moments, the things that you can pluck out of your experience to where you can now help other people with it. But just initially, they fear feeling that pain again.
And the thing is, if people truly knew that an emotion, like the biochemistry of an emotion, is 90 to 120 seconds.
Mm,
And it is our minds that keep us entangled in the feeling and make it last longer.
Yep.
So, one of the biggest tools I teach is deceptively simple and it is very powerful because what it does is give focused attention on your feeling. So, the technique is called feel, name, allow. That's it. You feel the feeling and you notice where it is in your body, how intense is it. You just pay attention to the feeling and then you name it. So you're acknowledging, hey, I'm feeling this way. And then you allow. Give yourself permission to feel it. When you follow that path, the feeling will be gone in about 90 seconds. But people spend so much time pushing this feeling away, they have no idea that they could just go through it very quickly.
Yeah.
The codicil to that is that when your mind returns to the unfairness of the circumstances or what happened, it'll bring up the feelings again. And so you have to practice that method time and again. And over time, it will begin to diminish because you're not storing the energy of that feeling. You're releasing it.
I like that. I tell people that in the weight loss game too, because people always say, I want to lose weight. I say, no, no. I'm like, what can be lost can be found. I'm like, we're letting that go, but when it comes to grief and overcoming trauma and obstacles, I always say those feelings, they don't go away. It's like you manage them. Like, take this guy. This is my dad, and so
Mhm.
I keep them near me. I keep
Nice.
pictures of them, a picture of them in my car. Like every Father's Day, I do a video montage of them. And there are days where I'm like, God, I wish I could just hear his voice again. And it's just like you said, you take the moment, you feel the moment, and then you're able to move on. But just by acting like, yeah, everything's fine, everything's fine. No, there were days where I just want to hug the dude again.
Yeah.
It is what it is. And there's other things that I've been through. Like I went through a messy divorce years ago, and you know, when you're in the midst of the fire, all you can see is all the bad stuff. But
Yes.
just now that so much time has gone through, and I've told the story so many times, like there's so many teachable moments in there, from picking up the pieces, living with the stereotype of a single father, and there's just so many pieces of the puzzle in there that are just relatable in everyday life. But had I just suppressed all that stuff out of fear of judgment and ridicule and everything else, then I wouldn't be able to get on these different platforms and help people navigate the messes that they go through. And like
Exactly.
that's exactly what you're doing. You're taking the messes you went through and showing people how to navigate their mess.
And really, because I write these books and they're aimed at kids 8 to 12, it's like, okay, if we take a generation of children and we give them every tool they need in order to deal with their feelings in the moment instead of repressing them, they're going to grow up and they're going to be emotional baggage-less adults. And imagine what the world will be when that group gets into power.
Exactly. So you used the word earlier, you either used it or I read it in your bio. Emotional resilience, right? Take me
Mm,
take me through what that
yeah.
means.
So, in the past 5 years, I have, they say that the most stressful thing in your life is to lose something, to go through a divorce, to move. There are like these lists of 10 things. In the last 5 years, I have moved about 18 times.
Oh God.
Well, I lost my house in a fire, and
Yeah.
so in the first 3 months, there were probably 6 moves trying to find a
Gotcha.
place to stay.
Wow.
Um, and actually 18, let's say 10, because that's
That's
probably
still a
more
lot.
realistic. Um, and then I've I lost my house to fire when I was 54 years old. I lost. I was. Our house was lost to fire when I was 6 years old too.
Mm.
So in my lifetime, I've had two abusive males. I've had two house fires. I've had two near drownings. And through all of it, I have learned to love humanity and, do what I do.
Great answer. So I've done. I gotta connect you with Noble. Noble. His name is Noble Gibbons. He does a show called The EQ Gangster. This dude's
Oh, beautiful.
this
Yeah.
dude's great. Yeah. So his whole show is about emotional intelligence. Like, yeah, you guys will have a great conversation about that as well. He's like over the top high energy. Like I can bring the energy. This dude brings the energy.
Awesome. Well,
but
I bring the calmness, so it's a good balance.
yes, yeah. I'll get you his info at the end. All right, so let's get back to your book. So when you wrote your first one,
Mhm.
what was your number one motivation for writing it?
The first one, my friend's daughter was 9 years old, a very sweet little girl named Isabella.
Mm-hmm.
And I just started writing, something to amuse her. And then, like I say, the story kept growing and growing, and it became, in the first year, it became three different books.
Oh wow.
And yeah, and they're being drip fed. It's a matter of, when can I afford to pay for editing and
Mm,
illustrations and publishing and all the
yeah,
different things involved. So book three should come out before Christmas.
awesome.
Um, yeah, but the the whole thing about it was I realized that if, and this was a thought that came to me, it doesn't only apply to girls, but the thought was, if a young girl can read my book and walk away with a sense of her own value, she will not make the same choices that I made.
Mm, it's powerful. It's
Yeah,
powerful. And
yeah.
and so is this are the books like are they a series or do they go in different directions?
They are a series, actually.
Okay.
So it's following Bella Santini through a journey of self discovery and learning how to deal with emotions. And she's, because she's in the Fey world, um, a human put into the Fey world, she has to learn the way of the Fey, and um, unlike the fairy tales of old, in my fairy tales, the Fae are emissaries of love. And so they teach love, respect, and understanding. And so Bella has to go through all of those lessons in order to shed some of that
Hmm.
judgment that we humans pick up.
Yes.
And, one of the things that I say is that we don't see the world as it is. We see it as we are.
True.
And what that means is we see it through the filters we were handed by our mother, our father, our teachers, our religious leaders,
Yeah. Coaches. Yeah.
coaches. They all saw the world through their own filters. And so we adopt some of their filters and they don't belong to us. They're their filters.
Yes, see, and with the kids too, because when I had that talk with my daughter and with my oldest son too, because I, excuse me, their mom, like I have five kids. I have two from my first marriage, and I have three
Mhm.
from my second. And so with the first two, their mom really wasn't in their life, so they grew up with all of my masculine energy, you know.
Yeah.
So and I'd be like, how you guys doing? They're like, oh, we're good. Okay, I think you're good, right? If I ask you if you're good and you respond, yes, I'm good, I think you're good. Like that's just how I am. So, years later, so my daughter's telling me, she's like, sometimes I need more from you. I'm like, then tell me. I'm like, I'm not a mind reader. If I ask you if you're okay,
This is
and you say yes, then I assume you're okay. So but it's one of those things that can be damaging to them, but you don't really, because in my mind, I'm like, I asked you and you answered me.
well,
So I moved on.
and the difference is not necessarily a female male difference, but it's being sensitive to the energies,
Yeah,
because a child may say they're fine, but their energy may tell you something different.
yeah,
And that's why the focused attention exercise is so powerful, because it really brings us to an awareness of our own feelings. And by having an awareness of our own feelings, then we can be more empathic, more understanding of the feelings around us.
yes,
And that's a real gift, because if you had been able to detect that feeling in your daughter, you would have been able to respond in a different way
yeah.
that maybe helped her feel more supported in that very moment.
So going back to what you were saying about filters, because like the way I deal with things, I'm not an outward stressor. So
Hmm.
like my father, like, he had gotten sick in January of 2019. Nobody in my circle, nobody in my gym knew until about October, like late
Oh,
late
wow.
October. So I'm at the gym, I'm teaching classes, I'm speaking on my platforms, doing my podcast, and nobody knew this man was even sick. And but that's just how I do it.
Hmm.
So I mean, I'm getting better at it now, especially now that I'm working with people with their story creation and stuff. But just in the beginning, it was quite the learning curve. Like I'm still learning, and every show that I do talking about this subject, I learn more from every single guest that comes on,
Yeah.
because as you said, we all have our own filters. So like if someone asks me, Foster, are you good? I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. But in that moment, I am. So I take it at face value. Like I'm a very black and white guy. Like I don't leave much gray to the imagination. So whatever you ask me, my answer is what's going on with me, and just
Well,
you
and
just assume
yeah,
other people do that too.
well, and that's the problem, because
Yes,
we can't assume anything.
exactly.
Yeah,
Well, at least I'm aware of it now.
exactly. And you're making efforts to it's that awareness that is huge. When
Yes,
we can be aware of our responses to the world around us, as long as we're not expecting others to have the same response,
yes,
then that is a very powerful thing. So self-awareness is one of what I say is one of the keys to living a magical life.
yeah. I agree. Self awareness is everything. And like I said to you earlier, I take notes on every guest that comes through here. This is
Yeah.
actually this is actually my third notebook. Since I've been doing this, my third notebook, because everyone, and the central theme is overcoming obstacles. So it's like, how many different episodes can you do about overcoming obstacles? It's like, how many obstacles are out there to
Maybe
overcome?
200 and some.
What I'm saying? But like this stuff people go through every single day. And I've spoken to people from all across the world, from all different walks of life. And just the way people get through stuff, like everybody has a unique perspective. It's like we're never just sitting here regurgitating the same info over and over and over. Some of the themes are the same, but
Mhm.
it's the how tos that change with every single person.
And the
And
beauty of your show is that your audience has this smorgasbord in front of them that they can select. This one works for me. Hey, what she said, that is really powerful
yes,
and it works for me. And that is, I say, when people resonate with what I'm saying, then they will migrate to me and
exactly.
become my followers. And
Yep.
so it's um, I talk about us each being a part of a diamond, a faucet of a diamond, and this faucet over here, this side, is going to really speak to those people, and the side that I'm on will really speak to those people. And it's all the truth, it's all the diamond,
Yep.
but the delivery, the way it's delivered is different, and that's the beauty of it.
Yeah, and that totally matters. Like even in the fitness world, there are people like my style is what it is. It's like obviously I start people where they are, but I start people with the same intensity. So like, all right, you're day one, but this is what I expect. You're on month 3, this is what I expect. And excuse me, some people need a slower approach, which is fine. Which is
Yeah.
fine. I'm just not your guy. It's like my ideal clients to work with are people who are fed up. Maybe they were athletes when they were younger, because I know how to tap into that inner athlete. Like if you get someone who's been sedentary their entire lives, can I work with them? Yes, but it's a completely different strategy to crack their code.
Yeah.
So it's about going after who's best suited to work with you. And I'll tell some people up front, I don't think I'm the right person for you. And it's not even like an arrogance thing. It's like,
No,
I
it
want you to get the best out of you, and I just don't think I'm that person for you.
yeah, you're giving them the gift
Yes.
of discernment.
Yep. Yeah. And my oldest son, he just started seeing a therapist, because he's got some deep feelings about his mom. And
Hmm.
it took years to convince him to go, because when he was in elementary school, he went to see a psychiatrist, and the guy didn't have the best bedside manner. We'll put it that way. So he just, my son's very quick to just lump everyone into the same box, and so it took
Hmm.
a long time to convince him to start going again. Like, and he had a pretty rough 2022. And so he had
Hmm.
texted me a couple weeks ago that he had an appointment, and I was talking to him a couple of days ago, and he's actually been to both. So it's like, all right, awesome. So like I wasn't pushing it on him, but just planting the seeds. Just planting the
Ah,
seeds. Like if you
there
just
you go.
talk to someone, he's like, well, how is that going to help? Like it can't help if you don't try. It's like if you try
Well,
and you don't like it, cool, but at least try.
yeah, and what a psychologist or a psychiatrist can do is help shift the way you look at something.
Yes.
And that shift in perspective is really important. But there's also underlying energy.
Yeah.
And it's, I don't want to say, I don't like dissing anything, but I think psychiatry and psychology fall down because they're only about the mind. But we are whole people.
Mm,
and, and so it's like, unless you deal with the underlying energy, you're still reactive. And
yes.
so that's why it takes 10 years of psychotherapy to get past something.
Yeah.
But you can do, you know, some of the techniques that I include in my books are really moving the energy. Because, for instance, one of them is what I call, kind of a timeline therapy. So when you are emotionally triggered and you remember, what was the first time I ever felt this way?
Mm,
So for me, with being yelled at, was a huge emotional trigger for me, because, and of course the first time would have been my father. And so I can picture myself as a 3 or 4 year old with my father just looming over me, screaming and raging and telling me I'm not worth anything, that I'm
mm,
shit, that I'm dust. And as a 3 or 4 year old, this person is the authority.
yes.
They know what they're saying. But when I, as an adult, step into that situation, I see it from a different lens, because what I see is an innocent little girl being screamed at by a drunk, raging father.
Yes.
And that's the truth of the situation.
Yeah.
the truth of the situation does not lie in me being worthless. It was in my father projecting onto me his self-hatred. and
Yes.
and so um, what I tell people is, when you revisit a situation like that from an adult perspective, you can pick up the child you, and you can whisper the truth in the child you's ears, and that shifts the energy. It's a total energy shift, because instead of being the victim of this raging man, I see the truth of it, that he is projecting his self-hatred onto me, and I don't have to take that.
Yes. Yes. And like as you were talking there, because as I said, my dad was pretty no nonsense. And in my younger days, especially once my ex-wife walked out on us, and like I was managing restaurants back then, and like my household, it was like boot camp. Like I was working 10-hour days. I had to get the
That's
kids
what you
to
grew up with, though.
yeah, like I had to get the kids to preschool, and then I had to get to the restaurant, and sometimes I had to leave the restaurant if one of the kids was sick, go to school, get them, go
Oh,
back to the
wow.
restaurant. Then I had to get home and do shopping, cook dinner, do laundry, get this, get the homework done, bedtime stories. Like it was just every day was just nonstop all day
Yeah.
long. And so, looking back now, it's like, you can always critique yourself. There's no manual for these things. Well, back then there was. I'm sure there's more now, but it's like it's just one of those things where going back to self awareness.
Mhm.
So just in the moment, you think you're doing the right thing, and then as I was having that conversation with my daughter, some of the stuff she told me I had long forgot about, but
Yeah.
she never did.
Right.
you know.
And often, we parents, we enter this innocently. We're trying to do our best, and
Yeah.
we're balancing all these different balls in the air.
Yeah.
And we say something, and we don't really mean anything by it, but the kid takes meaning.
Yes.
And so, what I tell parents is to give yourself grace, because we just, kids, they don't come with a manual, and parenting isn't taught in schools, and we're all really left with trying to follow the example of our parents.
Yeah.
And some of us outright reject that example. Like me, I was never going to be like my father. And that's why I rejected anger,
Yeah.
because it wasn't okay. And, that has consequences, because I didn't choose to express anger, but anger popped out when I didn't want it to.
Yeah. So it's just in there waiting.
Yeah, yeah, because that energy was never dealt with. So, yeah.
Wow. All right, so we're coming up on time here. So give us some final words. Let people know where they can find you, where they can get your books, all that good stuff.
Okay. So, really, my final word is, yeah, parenting is a hard job. It's the
Yes.
best job ever. And you're not going to, on your deathbed, worry about how many Instagram posts you scrolled through, or whether or not you did, this achievement at work. You're going to think about the relationships you had. And so, um, just give yourself grace, and know that today is always a good day to start trying to do a little bit better. And there are tools and there are things available. Um, I say that parents don't have time to learn emotional intelligence, but what if they can learn it by reading a fairy tale as a bedtime story to their kids? Oh my God.
Love it. That's great. All right, and
Yeah.
where can they find you?
They can find me at angelalegh.com, and it's ANGELALEGH.com.
Awesome. Angela, this was a very, very good talk. Got lots of notes over here. And you schooled me on a couple things. I appreciate that. And I'm sure we'll cross paths again in the future because I always invite guests back. We do panels. We do panels like round table talks and stuff. And
super fun.
Give you a quick example. Yeah. I was supposed to have one last Saturday, but I ended up getting sick, so I had to postpone it. So I think the next one's going to be December 3rd. And I'm gonna send you an email with some connections with some of my podcast friends if you want to get on some other shows.
Awesome. Thank you.
My pleasure. And like I said, I will be in touch.
Sounds great. Thank you so much.
Take care. Bye. All right. That was Angela. If you're just tuning in, make sure you go back and watch the entire episode. This was a great one on how to face the pain that you were hiding from, best practices to help you revisit whatever it is that happened, help you heal from it, find the teachable moments, and then share it to help other people going through similar struggles. So that's what this show is all about. Hope you enjoyed it. I'll be back on Thursday with Katie Chanakas, making her second appearance on the show. So that's going to be a great one as well. Again, thanks for tuning in, and I will see you then.
You've been listening to Shut Up and Grind. We hope you've gotten some useful and practical information from this show. Robert has over 20 years' experience pouring his knowledge and expertise at many events in the service and fitness industry, as well as secondary schools and universities. He has a true passion for helping others break through the barriers that are holding them back. To book Robert B. Foster to speak or to reach out, go to robertbfoster.com. Till next time, shut up and grind.